Hey guys, what's going on? Get this screen straightened out here. Make sure it sounds good. Okay. Tonight was kind of a rush. Didn't get the banner up earlier, so maybe everybody didn't get notices today. I apologize about that. It's been kind of a rush evening. I had to make sure I had the Camaro running before we did the show tonight, and it is running. So, so I kind of had to get a lot of rushing around done to get to that point, but we made it. And so it's Tuesday night, and we're live. So I hope everybody had a good rest of last week and a good weekend. Here in Florida, we got bombarded by rain, so that was a little crazy. I see Mike's on. Happy Tuesday. Did you guys get as much rain up there, Mike, as we did down here? We got about 5 inches of rain, but we got tons, about 3 days of gale force winds. I mean, it seemed like it was a hurricane out there, but made it through. Just broken tree limbs and stuff. Nothing to sweat about. So, all in all, not a bad deal. Unfortunately, it was on the weekend, so wasn't a whole lot of activity, especially on Saturday. Sunday cleared up maybe about 11 o'clock. Mike said it was awful up there. Yeah, I think the whole state of Florida got slammed pretty bad, and then everybody up the East Coast this week. I heard they had really bad problems up in Maine and stuff. So, and storm caught everybody not by surprise. We knew it was coming, but it's weird this time of year. But so got some updates on Leo's turbo. I don't remember where I left off last show. I think we were still waiting for Bill Devine to call me back from Bullseye. I think he was having some issues trying to find components. So I got some updates on that. Obviously, we got updates on the Camaro. I did a little video of the car running. I will apologize now. It was definitely rushed. But I wanted to get something to show you guys tonight. Then over the weekend, since couldn't really do anything else, I was on Facebook and found another abandoned race cars and racetracks group that quite a bit of people on it, and pretty cool. They got a bunch of old racetracks, drag strips, mainly circle tracks, some road courses, go-kart tracks that have been abandoned. It seems like a lot of people get like Google Earth shots of before and after. Well, I guess it couldn't be before, but I guess I don't know, maybe they do them black and white and color. I don't know, but kind of give you a resemblance of what was there and stuff. I'm not exactly sure how they do all that, but it's pretty cool. I always liked Dale Jr.'s abandoned racetrack show that was on for a bit. That was really cool. Something I kind of think is pretty wild. Not that we have one in here in our own backyard, but pretty cool to see some of the tracks from the 50s and 60s, how, Mother Nature's overtaken the facility, but yet you can still see the remnants. I just think that's pretty interesting. Kind of like, I guess, like some people would do, abandoned houses and stuff, but abandoned racetracks is pretty cool. So anyway, I got on that site and posted the number 7 car and did really well on that. Actually got a lot of information. One thing was interesting. I reached out to Jeff Bodine a number of weeks ago and really was let down. Didn't really get any information out of him. He was kind of cold and to the point. But when I put the car up on this Facebook group, a lot of people chimed in. Oh, hit Jeff Bodine up, this and that. And even I said, well, I tried and didn't get very far. but a couple guys tagged other people that were friends of his, and at the end of the day, he actually got on and was asking questions about it, how I came in contact with it. I told him a brief story, and he was shocked that Truett Cathy from Chick-fil-A had it in his museum. Wasn't sure how that happened. I see Chris is on. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Chris. But it was interesting. Two guys that commented on it. One guy, Aaron Brown, he has a company called The Garage Shop, and he does restoration on old race cars and other things. But he's got a crew of people up there in North Carolina, and he mentioned that he recognized the rear end diff cooler duct work. It looked like work that he had done, and asked for more pictures. And I went in the shop and went in the trailer, got a bunch of pictures of the car. He noticed right away that the firewall end pieces from the cage out were replaced. He goes, that's not how they put them in their cars when they built them. So he figured that, it may have been in a crash. And then he did catch in one of the pictures, which I didn't even catch, or I didn't pay much attention to, but the panel, the firewall brake panel between the rear tubs right now has a fuel pump mounted to it. Doesn't belong there, but that panel is wrinkled. So he said, definitely that chassis had been crashed, and he recognized a sway bar, a mount system that was on the front of the car that he didn't care for too much, but he knew who was doing those to Bodine's cars. And so that was pretty cool information. And then another guy, Brian Hicks, reached out and said that he wanted to see pictures like how the front nose piece was mounted to the chassis. And so again, I sent him a bunch of the pictures that I had already taken, and he recognizes the car. He believes that he rebodied that car to make it a show car, and from his recollection, it was probably done during the time that Jim Mattei had either became partners with Jeff Bodine or had purchased the team completely from Jeff Bodine. So that would be definitely right in 98. So interesting. I'm still trying to get some tidbits from those guys, but a lot of, definitely moving along with our information. Brian definitely said, I need to go over the car real well, because he agreed that the car was a crashed, rebuilt car. That's what they used. And I knew that too, that whenever it was a show car, that's what they built them out of. Aaron wants me to look underneath the chassis, see if I see any gray under the red. So far, I haven't. Everything I've seen, wherever the paint is flaked away, it's either metal or red. So, but one other thing that he mentioned was that the petty bar in that car, in NASCAR, they use what they call a petty bar, so they triangulate the right front windshield A-pillar post of the cage, and it goes down to a bar that goes from the back hoop to the front, and then it goes down to the floor, and it kind of ties that whole center of the car in from imploding on heavy rollovers. And he noticed in the pictures that car had a two-piece petty bar, not a one-piece. So he wasn't sure, but he said, it has to be an older car, because at one point NASCAR mandated that the petty bar be one continuous tube, not pieced together. So now I'm on the search to find out at what time that mandate went in, because that'll kind of give me a better pinpoint of when the car was actually built. We still aren't 100% sure that it isn't a Alan Quickie car, because of its age. That would be right about the time that there was Quickie cars still, when Bodine bought Alan Quickie's assets after he had passed. That was end of 93, beginning of 94. So car may be that old. So still on the hunt, but it was some interesting information anyway. Have to get looking at the calendar. I have to get busy on that because we have a bunch of shows coming up that I wanted to take the car to. January 6th in Lighthouse Point, Sheehan's Auto Plaza. We do, or I don't, but I join. My buddy Eugene does a Daryl Gwynn benefit for Daryl Gwynn's paralysis charity, and and so it's a really cool event because it's more geared to race cars than it is show cars, and I think we get like 500 cars in there, and because they emptied the dealership outside lot, so we fill it with all race cars and show cars, and it's probably about a 60 or 70 to 30 more race cars than show cars. So it's a good time, and it's kind of like a homecoming. Everybody that doesn't race anymore still shows up, and it's a really cool BS session with everybody, catching up with people you haven't seen either since the last show last year or from whenever. And that's a show that I haven't been to in a number of years. So it'd be really interesting to see, get caught up with a lot of people, and it'd be really cool to have the Phillips car there. So we're going to try to thrash over Christmas to pop a motor together real quick and drop it in there and get that thing running. So we'll see how that all works out. I guess kind of lucky. My wife works Christmas Day, and my girls are, have other things that they do, and everybody's kind of just used to. We do Christmas the day after Christmas, so I'll give me an extra day of work in. So we'll see how that all works out, but I'm gonna give it a shot to try to get that car together. So, but that'll be a big thing to try to get done, and now that I got Joe's car running, that's good. I got to got a lot of little things to work on that. I don't know how or why, but the way I clocked the exhaust cutouts, they're working backwards. One's open, one's closed. You flip the switch and it goes the opposite. So I had to switch some wiring around, and I think I've got it where they're matched now. So I wanted to hear what the exhaust sounded like. I know Joe is chomping at the bit to hear what the exhaust sounds like. So that'll be it'll be interesting. And I have an IAC issue with that car too. So that's something we can talk about after I show the video. So I'm going to wait a couple more minutes, get a couple minutes after 7 before we show the video. I went on motorsportreg.com, which is a group that's I think it's involved with Haggerty's, but it's where you can sign up for events all over the country, and then you can put in your area. I think we've talked about this on the show a couple times. So I went on there and I did join the join the Stock Car Classics group. So now I'm a member there, and hopefully I don't know what the racing season's going to look like yet for the for grudge racing and such, but really hoping to get to one of their events. I think they're doing Rockingham and they're doing Darlington, so it'd be really cool to spin some laps in a real NASCAR on a real NASCAR track. That'll be pretty cool. So that's something I'm going to work on. I think right now they have 13 events for the year already scheduled. So definitely going to try to see if we can slide one of those events in during the year. And hopefully, I think it looks like I can make the spring Daytona Rod Run. And my buddy Scott has already said that he wants me to use his Olnec race car hauler to take the car up, which would be pretty cool since I have a vintage race car hauler with a vintage stock car in it. So we'll see how that works. I'm not sure I can get it in there because the NASCARs sit, the Cup cars sit so low to the ground. I had to get long extensions for my enclosed trailer, which almost any car would fit in there because the ramp approach was too steep and the spoiler would hit. So we'll see how that all works out. We got plenty of time for that, but got to get a motor in it first. So, but yeah, that's those are some of the things that we're going on to. So I don't know if Steven's going to get on tonight. I know he's a big 4200 guy, and Ryan. So just go over what we did. I don't have any pictures yet. I'll have the turbo on Friday. So on Leo's car, I showed the destroyed turbine wheel, and we called all over the place. Bill Devine up at Bullseye Turbo. If anybody wants a racing turbo, awesome guys to work with. They got state-of-the-art components. They're not diesel or tractor OE supplier that's building race turbos. They are a race turbo manufacturer. That's all they do is build race turbos. Anyway, so we really wanted to get one of his turbos on Leo's car, but it just at this point wasn't cost prohibitive, since we just got done doing the engine and everything, and we knew we were going to have some cost for the turbo. I think Leo thought better to see what our other options were, but I really appreciate everything that Bill did for us. So I did do some more research, did some more scouring on the internet, and I did find out that the GT turbos, especially the 4788, discontinued over 10 years ago. So it's an old turbo. And nobody that we could come up with had any old stock that we could find. Although I did, 2 days ago, somebody did reach out to me and say that they found that they may have an old stock, but we've already purchased a new one. So at that point, we kept looking around, and did some research, and I heard from a company, AP Turbo, and again, when they emailed me back, no, discontinued, no, nobody's got anything for you. But they did say that the GTX series, which is their newest line of race turbos, take the same turbine housing. So even though the components aren't the same, as far as the the turbine shaft or the center body or the compressor wheel or the compressor housing, but the turbine housing is still the same turbine housing. So that kind of worked right into our worked well for us, because as you guys saw in the videos last week, the turbo housing has the turbine housing has the wastegate built on. So it's all been custom modified to fit the car. So that's a real significant piece if we could reuse that, because that means the turbo would then bolt right onto the engine. So I did some more research, and the GTXs are ceramic bearing turbos rather than a journal bearing. So obviously they're going to spool much faster, and they have a little bit better terminal speed on the shaft. I don't know if you guys are aware, but turbo shafts can run into the 90,000 to 100,000 RPM speed. So the ceramic bearing obviously work much better than a journal bearing. And they have a new and improved wheel that's legal for a bunch of 88 millimeter turbo classes like X275 and a couple other different classes. So, it's a fairly popular turbo, even though it's probably getting close to its age of phasing out. But we were able to get one. It'll be here Friday. And I sent the turbine housing out and had it black ceramic coated. I was hoping to have that today to show it on the channel, but I didn't hear back from those guys, so not finished yet. But I will have everything assembled next week, and possibly sometime over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to try to shoot over to Leo's and put the turbo back on, and we'll do an anti-lag test. And if everything works good, we are trying to run the car January 7th at Bradenton Motorsports Park. Even though my wife isn't very happy about that, she thought we were going to go away for my birthday weekend, but to me, racing's more important, and a little quick trip, we can do that anytime. So we'll see. She said we'll talk about it, so we haven't had that conversation yet. But yeah, so that was that's the update on Leo's turbo. The beauty, a couple of pluses, obviously, new and improved compressor wheel, different design, billet instead of a casting, and on the spec sheet, the GT turbo they said was kind of maxed out at 1,400 horsepower, and the GTX, being the bearings and the improved compressor wheel, is good for 1,550. So that's a plus for us also, because that's something I wanted to do. Is the motor made 1,200 horsepower at 20 psi. I want to run the motor at 28 to 30 psi. So it'll be very interesting to see how all that works out. It'll be very cool to get that going, and we'll see where we end up with that thing. So yeah, so that's the updates on Leo's car. So I guess I'll go ahead and let me show the little video I made of Joe's car running. So okay, here's Camaro update. We got some of the cooling system done, AC lines, battery cables and everything done. All the power steering hoses are all done. Cleaned up some of the wiring in the corners. Fan relays over there. And we had it running. Okay, so that's the quick video. I'm sorry, I apologize for the shakiness and everything during the video. I literally did that at 10 minutes after 6 o'clock, and I was thrashing, trying to get everything all set up for the live show. That upper radiator hose is not the permanent hose. I just stuck that on there. It's the only thing I had to fit so that I could start the engine. So that will be fixed. You can see in the picture that we got all the heater hoses and the AC lines done. I had to drop the inner fender out to get that all lined up. And you can hear that the starter doesn't sound 100%. I'm going to have to shim that. I didn't have the starter before I had bolted the engine to the transmission, so I wasn't able to check the shim adjustment. So now that I hear that, I know that I got to work on that. So we will get that worked on. Here, we'll let you hear the engine again. Yeah, so adjusting the throttle there, we'll go ahead and all right. Yeah, so that's the that. Let me fix the sound. So that was literally the second crank on that motor. I prime it. You know, we talked about this in other shows. I did a full prime on it before we fire it up. So it was already had oil in it and pressurized, and so it got oil pressure right away. You could see in the video I reached in the throttle body with my finger, and you could hear it changed the way the sound, the air going into the throttle body was. So the IAC is stuck open. So typically, you know, there's no tuning on that engine at all. That's the base tune that Holley builds in with their handheld controller. You put in the information, and it generates a startup file for you. So that was the file and the startup, and so I figured, well, maybe the throttle blade angle isn't set correctly. So that's why you seen me grab a T-handle and open and close the throttle blade, trying to get the IAC to change its sound, which it did not. So going back to my videos on the channel, you'll see there's a Holley video about IAC control, and I've got that same issue with this one. So the throttle body, even though it's a Holley throttle body, it came with a GM IAC, and the harness is pinned for a Chrysler, or vice versa. It came with a Chrysler IAC, and the wiring harness is pinned for LS. They're exactly the same looking IAC motor, just the wires are in different positions. So that's something I'll work on. I just didn't have time before the show to get that done. Mike says, just got off the phone with a friend who has a 67 Chevelle 396. I recommended you, so you may hear from him. Okay. What kind of issues is he having, and how fast does he want somebody to look at it? Right now, I probably wouldn't be able to do any serious projects until towards the end of the year, probably, because I am definitely going to do a shuffle here soon. I'm going to get Joe's Camaro finished up, get the Chevelle wired, and then I got a couple little jobs to get in and out, and then Joe's bringing his Corvette back in, and then I am going to take a break and get some work done on the Vet Hawk, and get maybe part 2 and part 3 finished up on that, and then I can put that away for a little bit and get back on shop stuff. But yeah, so that's what we got to do with the IAC, and that's what happens when the IAC motor and the wiring harnesses are not the same. So that's what happens, because the way the motors work, there's electric pulses for in and out, high speed, low speed. So when it doesn't adjust at all, it's pinned for the wrong unit. So that's an easy fix. I just look at the color schematic on the connector, figure out which one it is, whether it's the Holley / Chrysler or GM LSX, and then switch it to the other one. Mike says, running issues. It has low performance. It's already been restored. I told him you have to have a wait list. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I'll definitely talk to him and get him in the mix. See what we can do with it. Like I said, it's definitely going to be, probably sometime late summer with Joe's Corvette. I've got another list, like not quite as long as I had on the Camaro, but we're doing some engine work to it, doing EFI on it, doing Dakota gauges on it, and I think that's it for the big stuff. Everything else I think is like weather stripping and stuff like that. So it shouldn't be as long. It should be a much quicker in and out job, but I definitely have to get that finished, along with a bunch of little jobs in between before I can take on anything else. So yeah, as long as he's got some time to wait and chill, I'll try to hook him up. But yes, that was the startup of the Camaro. Woo! I finally got it done. You don't have to listen to me saying I still don't have it done. So I think the exhaust came out pretty good. I still have a little quirks with the exhaust dumps. Like I said, one was working backwards. I did a quick wiring patch to get them working. Still seems like they might be leaking a little bit. I don't know if that's something that needs to get a little carbon build up on it, or maybe they just aren't completely seated yet. So we'll take a look at that. Now I have more time because now it's running. So one thing we can do, what I was going to try to do, Mike says, sounds like it's car, and I'm sorry, there's always a carbon tuning issue. Yeah, timing issue. Yeah, so I'm sure we can figure it out. I was supposed to go up to DNR today and tune a Holley car for them, and I was going to run out to Chris's out in Loxahatchee and touch up a buggy that has a sniper on it, and I was going to show you that stuff on the live. Kind of glad I didn't do it today because it was a hectic day and I got the Camaro running, and I would have hated to been late and not and really rushed and whatever. So I'm going to do the buggy tomorrow, and I'm going to go up to Doug's on Thursday, and I guess there's an alignment issue on that car that they needs the Holley work, so I got to take a look at that also. So yeah, so I was going to show you that, but I can show you what a stock file on a Holley looks like. So it's going to take me a second here to switch screens here. So let me work on this. Okay, sound is still good. All right, this way I can still see the. So here's a sniper system. We're going to open a config file, customer file Joe. And why is there nothing in it? Did I drop it? I may have put it in the wrong folder. Let's see if I put it in the data logs. No. Individual. Oh, config files. All right, let me see why that didn't go in there. Sorry about that, guys. Bear with me for a second here. We'll get this done. Okay, so there's the tune file. Holley sniper. Well, it's there. Maybe it's got the wrong heading on it. Oh, I know what's wrong. It's not a sniper. All right, so let's get out of here. We gotta go to. It's a Terminator. That could be a good problem there. There you go. There's files that I already had played with. So okay. So now we're cooking with fuel. Okay. Close that. Close that. Close that. No. All right, now I got to change files again. Where's Terminator? All right, now we're cooking here. One more thing I got to switch. Okay. Hopefully we didn't mess up the sound or anything. So let me go and open this file up. So this is basically a file that the Holley system will write itself. You can go into configurations. Oh, my computer's slow. So 378, 42-pound injectors. That's all information that I put in through the handheld, and it went ahead and generated all this. It knows it's a Terminator Max because it's got trans control, which you see the little shifter there. You tell it to 58 tooth, and it sets all this stuff up for you in advance. So that worked out real good. You got your closed loop learning, and here's one of the things we'll address in the near future. Our closed loop is set at 50% correction, plus or minus, and our learning is at 50%, which is a bit much. As I have discussed before, if injectors or if the wideband ever goes bad, you can make the car run really bad because it will add 50% in closed loop and 50% in learn. So that's 100% more fuel. So it'll kill the plugs and leave you stranded. So Holley on the Terminator and Sniper works in VE. I prefer brake specific fuel consumption, and we've discussed this in the past. These numbers relate to how many pounds per hour of fuel is going into the engine. So with this tune, up here in the top, we've got 275 pounds per hour. So we use a calculator and go, this motor's supposed to make 535 times 0.45 brake specific is 240 pounds per hour. Let's just go with a different 535 times 0.5 in case the efficiency is a little worse. And that's 267. So as you can see by using the pounds per hour flow rate, that our tune is written for 275 pounds per hour, and doing it by math, the engine's going to require 267. So you can see that this is really close. We can see you stream, not the tune. Oh, why is that? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why it didn't do that. Let me fix that. Give me a second. Why is that doing that? We want window capture. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Fast Sheet, for let me know that. So now we have the Holley tune-up. So let me just go back over that for a quick second. Here's a couple of the pages we started with. That's the engine setup. We got cubic inch. We got the injector flow rates and everything. Ignition, 58 tooth. So all this was written by the handheld with parameters that Holley puts in from the factory, and you go and you pick with the stylus on their screen. You pick out which ignition device you have. We put 58X, what injector size, stuff like that, and it generates this tune for you. And I did mention, here's our closed loop parameters. This is the sensor reads the exhaust and then makes a quick adjustment to make it the target and the actual AFRs match. And then learning is where the computer will actually learn what the closed loop was doing, and actually has a background map that lays over top of the fuel map. And that's how they do the learning. So, like I said, once the car is driven a little bit, we'll knock these numbers down to about 10%, because if the O2 sensor or the wideband ever goes bad, right now it could add 50 from this screen, 50 from the learn screen. That'd be 100%. It'd foul the plugs and you'd be stranded. So now we go back to our base fuel table, and again, as I said, volumetric efficiency is their default. I switch it to go to the conversion. I switch it to fuel rate, pounds per hour. And what I was discussing earlier is up here in this top corner at 6,700 RPMs and at zero vacuum or 105 kPa. The computer, this tune is calling for 275 pounds per hour. And doing a math calculation, the engine at 535 horsepower that it's rated at would consume 267. So this tune is within that cell anyway, within 2-3% of being correct. Now down here in the mid range, it may not be correct, but that's what we'll work on down the road. A couple things I wanted to show you. Target AFR, and here's the bad things about using the handheld for tuning. So you can see from 91 kPa to 105 kPa, 12.5 is what it's going to get. There's no leaning into it or anything from there. And then at 85 kPa, it's 13.6, and then at 80, it's 14.7, which is a little lean there. And then idling is 13.8. So what we would do is we would switch this from simple to a 2D graph, and then I would go in here and start blending this stuff in, and we make this make a lot more sense. Let me do this. So you can see here by blending this stuff in, we can get a much better map. And then of course, after the car has been driven a bit, we'll go in here in this section here. This is one of my tricks for fuel economy. And then you can just blend that in, so it's not a big change. But now you can see that on real light throttle at cruising speeds, we can target 15.0, get some fuel mileage out of the car. And then if you're pedaling the car for tire spin or anything like that, the fuel curve is a lot better, and it doesn't go to 14.7 until down here at 69 kPa, which would be like part throttle, which you could still theoretically be 14.7. So this makes a lot more sense and a lot better drivability, but you can't get to this with the handheld. You have to go in with a laptop and make these changes. I don't believe, let's see, we did, yeah, so this is your learning table, and the engine didn't run long enough to get a learning table, but what this will do is that learning will populate this table, and this table is an adder table to the base fuel table. So that's just showing you what that does. Timing is the same thing. With the handheld, you get a simple timing map. So from 0 to 1200 RPM, it gets 18 degrees, and that's it. And then out here, 2000 to 7000 up to 85 kPa, it gets 36, and then up here 26, and there's no blend. It's just boom, boom, boom. So again, that would be something we go in and change, make it a 2D, and then we can start making a little bit more sense of this stuff. First of all, I'd go ahead and make those all. Make those all 26. Well, I probably would idle it a little higher. I like to idle them around 22 on the LS. That seems to work real good. And then we can blend this here. And then up here, obviously, we want at 91 kPa. We don't need it to be only 26 degrees of timing. That's perfect for a watt, but here we could use a little bit more timing. So then what we'll do is we go in here and we'll blend this. And again, for our drivability, which I'm just going to show you right now, really the car has to be driven to do this, but I would come in here, say to 44 kPa, and go in there with 50. Do some blending here. And that's kind of the map that I would normally make. Again, this timing here, you have to drive the car and tune it. Look and see where the cruise is. I usually like to get the car to get right around 70, 75, ease off the throttle, and just see what throttle position it takes to maintain that. And that would be whatever that kPa reading would be there is how high I would make this scale go, and I would make it stop right at that point, and then blend around it. And this is basically, like I said last show, we were talking about how I translate all these parameters to carburetors. Well, this area here with 50 degrees is your vacuum advance on a old school distributor. And that's what they would do. The top here would be your mechanical advance in your distributor, and then the vacuum port would normally be a ported signal, so it would only see that at cruise, and then you would get that advance in the timing to get fuel economy. So, not that fuel economy is a big thing of a big topic to get, but if I can make the car get better fuel economy, even though we're looking for performance, it's not going to hurt it, because you're never going to be in this range. See, right now we're at 53 kPa. We're never going to be at 53 kPa or less when you're driving it in a performance manner, because you're going to have the throttle open, you're going to have no vacuum, and it's going to be up here in the top section. So this doesn't hurt at all to have it there. And it will, if you're taking a trip or something, it does help a little bit in fuel economy. So that's just something that I just kind of wanted to show you guys. The handheld tune for the snipers and the Terminators. You can even do this with an HP. It's a really great tool to use for getting the vehicle started, for writing a base fuel tune. Works great, but as soon as you can get the car running, then you'd want to go in and do something like we've done here, and really manipulate the tables, and it's going to make drivability so much better. When we were going over all the stuff the other day, last week, we were showing data logs and stuff. Those two cars did not have trans control. So let me just go over trans control real quick with you. So here's our transmission setup. 4L70. We got right now. This is all stuff that was put into the handheld. So 7,000 RPM max RPM, 200 mile per hour max. There's our factory gear ratios. We can change those if we change the gear set. Say like we were running I think there's a custom 290 or 280 first gear set for the 4L60, 700R4, 4L70. So if you had that, you could go in here and put that stuff in there so the computer knows. Tire height and gear ratio, those were asked in the handheld, and so we put those parameters in. But the reason why this stuff is so important, because the computer is gonna figure out your tire height and gear ratio for mile per hour, because all your shift parameters are all going to be set up by mile per hour. So here's the beauty of this stuff is, you don't have to worry about governors anymore and trying to get your shift points where you want them. So we got our first to second shifts, and we get red is upshift, blue is downshift, and we can just take these and make these go wherever we want. So we can run the car out wide open throttle and find out that, we topped out 6,100 or 6,200 where we want the car to shift, and it was, right now it's set at 42 miles an hour. We'll say it was at 50 mile an hour. All you got to do is bring that up to 50 miles an hour, and boom, and you're set. Actually, it'd be right there. So that's how easy it is to do gear shifts, gear changes. And there's your 2-3, 3-2, and then 3-4, and you can obviously see that it's going to shift at a higher mile per hour. If you're cruising 26% throttle, it's going to shift into overdrive at 39 miles an hour. So if it upshifts too early for you, you just find the TPS position, slide it up a little bit, boom, done. So really easy to manipulate everything. Line pressure. Here's your shift kit, basically. Duty cycle on your line pressure versus TPS. So obviously at 93% TPS, we're going to give the pressure regulator 0 duty cycle. So it's not going to work. It's going to stay shut. So it's going to make as much line pressure as the pump can make. And then obviously down here, we're going to give it 34% at 0, so that the pump isn't cranking out a ton of pressure, when it doesn't need to be. And then we can also go temp. We can control temp. So, you want to change the line pressure as the transmission fluid gets hotter, you do it there. Your lockup data here. We're going to enable this one in 4th gear. We can enable in 2nd gear if we want to. If you got a strong enough, you got an aftermarket lockup converter, you can do that. You can go into your TCC lock unlock and change it by mile per hour. Again, 26% throttle, it's going to lock up at 56 miles an hour. If that's a little late, you can move it, or if it's a little early. And you can do slew rates, so you can do you can unlock it and lock it ending duty cycles and stuff. So a lot of stuff you can control there. I think we'd have to go into race transmission, and then you could actually see, we can do that. They don't have the race feature in here, so because this is not a Dominator. But we can manipulate that, because we can make a math channel to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys some stuff. Wasn't exactly what I wanted to show tonight, but just something we could go over. And now I've made these calculation changes with the AFR and with the timing map. Now I can upload this to the SD card and put it back in Joe's car, and it's ready to start driving and getting all the tuning done. So that's basically what I was, trying to just give you guys a little overview of what's available. Hope that was hope it made sense, and it was educational. I'm always going to push fuel injection stuff. It's what I do a lot of. So anyway, so that was pretty much what we had going on this week. We got that turbo deal worked out for Leo's car. We got the Camaro running. I got a couple little things. I did have to pull the dash cluster back out because to program the Dakota Digital, you got to push the buttons on the control box, and of course I couldn't reach it with the clutch with the dash face on, so we just had to knock that back. Do that stuff tomorrow morning, get that all programmed, and I can get the dash back together. We can get the interior in the car finally and start putting some laps on this thing. I got to make a new upper radiator hose, and then next start working on the air intake. Fast Sheet Garage, I appreciate it. I'm in the OE profession. Don't get to see these tables much. Yeah, when you start messing around with the aftermarket ECUs, it's like, man, you get a car, it's got a little lean tip in or something. Man, I could fix that if I had a chance to get into the computer and make a modification to it. And of course, with the the GM and Ford, you can get in with HP tuners. It's a really good system. Only thing with the OEMs and why I quit tuning OEM stuff is every PCM or ECM architecture has a different feel. So what HP Tuner does is they take the data and they put it into a table format. So sometimes you can't always find exactly what you're looking for because they may not have been able to name it the same as you would normally look for because of whatever architecture was in that tuning, what they did. And obviously OEMs keep modifying that stuff, trying to make it harder for the aftermarket guys to do it. But with experience, the HP stuff works real well. The Chrysler stuff, I'm not 100% sure. I think Diablo has some stuff that you can do. I've never actually seen the software. I've kind of strayed away from the Mopar, the Chrysler stuff, only because they don't even have year-to-year platforms aren't even the same. So it's really, I started looking at it years ago with the SCT software when they were like one of the first ones to come to market with a tuning file, and it was really tough. And then, I was back in the day, I was working on a 95 Viper, and I kind of figured out where I needed to go, and I actually got a pretty decent tune in the car. And then I had a guy come in with a 97, and so I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I just did a 95, blah blah blah, and got the licensing from SCT, and it was completely different. So that was about kind of when I started to think, this is crazy because I'm not getting paid for all the time that you have to learn all the new stuff. So it's crazy. Mike says, I see the aftermarket EFI, they don't use MAF. Yeah, mass airflow sensors, especially, and this is going back to SCT because when I was tuning a lot of Ford stuff, Ford was huge with MAF. If you remember, Mike, and everybody else that's worked in the OE, GM played around with MAF, but they still had a map sensor in the car. So they still had speed density tables for fueling. But Ford uses the MAF and solely MAF. And the way it was explained to me is to get your base fuel table laid out. It was explained to me as, think of a three-legged stool. One leg was the cubic inch of the engine, one leg was the injector sizing of the engine, and then the third leg was the transfer rate of the mass airflow. So to get the car to have good drivability, you had to get each one of those legs 100% correctly put in the data. So once I understood that, it made it pretty simple, but it took a lot of effort to tune, because what you would have to do is you would have, I think, like 26 or 30 set points in your MAF transfer. You would actually have to load the engine and get the air volume in every one of those sections to make sure that the airflow number was correct, to get the air-fuel ratio correct. So I hope I understood. Hope I explained that correctly. But it was a lot of work. What I ended up doing would be going on the dyno and applying the brake on the dyno lightly, and adjust the load by adjusting the air pressure to the air brake on the dyno. Get the car into overdrive, and then very ease onto the throttle and try to get the motor tugged down as low as I could, and then slowly bring it all the way through the whole gamut of all the set points. And once everything matched, the car was tuned, and car got decent fuel mileage, and it had really great drivability. So, but GM used the speed density. I think it works much easier. It's a much easier system to tune. Plus, if you have a cracked air tube or something like that, Fords are not going to run right, because it's dependent on that MAF sensor. So anything happens to the MAF sensor, car drivability goes into the toilet. So GM was smart by using dual systems, and then they finally just said, this is a waste of time. Let's just go back to speed density and call it a day. And I'm glad they did. Much easier to tune. Fast Street says, that, and I do know they use multiple tables for fueling and timing for efficiency. Right. Multiple tables for that stuff. And they're all adders, Even the aftermarket do use adder tables, but yeah, the OEs use a lot of them. So it's very tricky when you're trying to tune the SCT software for the Ford stuff. They had some backdoor information there, so the skins that they would lay over the factory tuning kind of gave you the right spots to make your tuning calls on. The GM, with, like they said, with the HP tuner, sometimes you have to be really cognizant. You have to go through every table to find which is the adder table, which is the real table. So it's very time consuming. Mike says about 2 months ago, GM started making us download the programming info on anything warranted with internal engine, trans, and differential failures. Well, that makes sense, because people tune their engines, and then if they don't tune it correctly and they lean it out or whatever, and they hurt it, or they burn the transmission up because they don't set torque management correct, because GM uses torque management to control how their transmission does their shifting and stuff. It's a liability issue for them for warranty, so I can understand them doing that. Chris Schultz says, I'm racing a Champ Car Endurance Series at Sebring December 30th, 31st, 8-hour race. I'm one of 4 drivers trying to sharpen my skills so I can keep up with you and VetHawk. That'll be a lot of fun. I've built a couple of Lemons cars. Never actually participated as a driver, but they're a lot of fun. If the car is sorted and you guys can make the entire 8-hour event, you guys will have a blast. What kind of car are you guys? Do you know what kind of car you're using, and if it's manual, automatic, rear wheel, front wheel? Mike says GM still has both MAP and MAF. Yeah. So a lot of cars, they are still using it. I mean, most of the the LS stuff that I work on, they're MAP only. Although I do believe you're right with the LT stuff, they've gone back to using MAF, and that is probably due to the direct injection, because there's a whole different platform for fuel trimming for the direct injection stuff. So that's probably why they went back to that, because I mean, most of your LS engines, they dropped the mass airflow completely. Now, I think some of their other vehicle lines, other engine packages, they probably still use it. I mean, the nice thing about the MAF is, especially when you're using it on top of a speed density, it's real easy to make the engine feel like it's running well. It may not always fuel 100% correctly, but you can make the transients real smooth, and the transitions and stuff. So that's probably why they do it a lot. And the good thing is the engine isn't dependent on the MAF. So yes, you're right, fast. So MAF historically is a redundancy check on the GMs, right? So like I was saying, they're still going to tune speed density, but that kind of helps everything, smooth everything out. It just makes drivability a lot easier to tune and a lot more user friendly, because that's you guys know, working the OEMs, they don't have the same thought considerations we have. For us building a pro touring car or something like that, like Joe's Camaro, if it runs good, gets decent fuel mileage, and lays rubber and runs awesome at wide open throttle, that's all we care about. And it doesn't stall. Those are the main characteristics that we're looking for. And the Holley system will do that in a heartbeat. Very easy to tune, and will do that. Now, the OEMs, they got to worry about the guy like us, the car enthusiast, then they got to worry about Granny and Grandpa, and they got to worry about the teenage driver. They got to make the car drivable for everybody. And that's why, we talked about this last month, why they got into, the yaw control and ABS and drive-by-wire. All those things are to make the car more suited for the mass public. Unfortunately, in my eyes, it takes away from what we are looking for. We want the good stuff, and they kind of take that away from us, and it kind of hinders the driving experience for somebody that likes performance driving. Chris says he's driving an old Infiniti, auto and rear drive. Well, I would hope with an Infiniti and being automatic, that's going to be your Achilles heel, is keeping the transmission alive. Hopefully the guys that are prepping the car are, this isn't their first go around. And I really hope you guys can make the whole 8 hours. It's going to be a lot of fun. What track is that going to be at? I don't know if I could make it, but that would be fun to go watch. Mike says GM is more concerned with emissions and drivability. Right. Well, let's face it. The government has made CAFE regulations beyond crazy. And so it costs the manufacturers a ton of money to make the emissions work, and it costs them a ton of money when they don't make the standards that are set forth in the CAFE stuff. So it's, again, a double whammy. They have their hands tied, not together, in 180 in different directions, being ripped apart at the shoulders, trying to make the car meet the masses and still meet all the government regulations and stuff. It's really sad. And I think I am of the school of thought that electric cars aren't going to be the fix either. So we'll see what happens. I'm really thinking that hydrogen is going to be the way to go. Of course, it's going to take some while till they get that perfected, but I think that's, hopefully we don't ever lose the ICE engine. That, at least in my lifetime anyway. Fast has got to go. Catch you next week. Appreciate it. And actually, I'm gonna have to drop here in a couple minutes. I've got a phone call at 8:00 I have to make. So we'll I guess we can wrap up. Chris, hopefully you can let us know what track you're going to be racing at. And I don't know if anybody else had any questions they want to throw out real quick. And I will go ahead and I'm going to do the those two tunes tomorrow and Thursday, and be interesting to show some stuff on that. The Sniper is on a Palm Beach buggy, and it had a 383. It was like 380 horsepower, and now it's like a 427, and it's almost 600 horsepower. So I can show the before and after what we did, and stuff like that. Chris says he's going to be racing at Sebring. Saturday 8 hours, Sunday 7 hours. Oh, so it's two separates. They're not doing it all in row. So it's going to be during the day, or you're not driving through the night then? Mike says the EV comes with its own set of issues. Yes. Cost of batteries that nobody wants to talk about. How about that one? We don't have the infrastructure to be able to travel with an EV car. And nobody talks about that, but EVs do not get good mileage on the highway. They get 300 miles to a charge in town, in city. They work completely different from a gasoline engine. On the highway, when you're steady throttle at highway speed, your length of power goes away quicker. I've heard some cars go from 300 down to 200, or even I've heard that somebody said they did a test with a F-150 towing a light trailer, and it dropped to 125 miles from a full charge, where it would do 300 in town. So, yeah, that's not our, and plus we're still burning fuel to charge the batteries. So there's no greenhouse savings with the battery. That's a bunch of BS that the bureaucrats are trying to shove down our throats. And unfortunately, the main public isn't aware that that's not fixing the problem. We're still running diesel generators and burning coal to make all this electricity. So that's not the fix. Anyway, I'll get off my my soapbox. Mike says U.S. doesn't have the grid to carry the demand for charging, and they will put out as many EVs as predict. Well, I mean, we've already heard the rumors that the dealers are complaining that they can't sell the cars. And if they weren't giving the government subsidies, nobody could even afford to buy the darn cars. And quite a few foreign countries I have seen, of course, fake news, so who knows what articles you're reading are true. But I heard that there are some smaller European countries that are going against them now because their grids, power grids, cannot handle it, and they're already having huge issues. So they're having to step back from it because it's just, it was really cool in theory and everything, but when you're trying to put the cart in front of the horse, it doesn't work very good. The horse doesn't push very good. It'll pull really good, but it's not going to push. So I would say, Chris, you're probably racing during the daytime with those issues, with those times, 8 hours on Saturday. You're probably going into the night, but you're not running through the night. That was always crazy with the 24-hour Lemons races, trying to see these guys stay awake in the middle of the night, and all the crazy contraptions we'd make for spotlights for the front of the cars and stuff so you could see, we'd actually put 4 headlights on the car. We'd crisscross 2 headlights and then 2 straight forward so that you could see the apex of the turn when you're going into the turns. So it was pretty wild, all the setups we had to do. So Chris answered yes. So you guys are running during the day, and so that'll be a lot of fun. Good luck with that, Chris. We'll be looking for reports. You got to give us some reports. So. All right, it's approaching 8 o'clock. I got to make this phone call. So I appreciate everybody coming on to the show. I hope everybody has a good week. I'll get some videos of Joe's car driving next week and give you some updates on the stock car, where we're going with that. And we'll have some video on the new turbo for Leo's car. And we'll do it all again next Tuesday. Thanks, everybody, for coming on the show. And I really appreciate it. And Have a good week. See ya.